Right now, the Middle East is gripped by active, kinetic warfare. Iran launched missiles toward Kuwait, and the U.S. is retaliating against Iranian missile sites. In the middle of this active crossfire, U.S. and Iranian negotiators are attempting to finalize a 60-day Memorandum of Understanding, a temporary diplomatic bridge. This map of the Strait of Hormuz shows where negotiations are gridlocked. The U.S. demands absolute, unrestricted shipping through this waterway, but Iran demands total management of the strait and the immediate removal of the naval blockade. The entire standoff hinges on this single choke point, creating a situation where the winner of the negotiation is whichever side controls the passing ships. But if you ask the military planners who wargame these scenarios, the intense focus on this waterway is a strategic trap. Former CENTCOM war planners, like Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt, view the strait standoff as a secondary concern, diverting attention from Iran's core military capabilities. Because the U.S. maintains a policy of keeping no troops on the ground inside Iran, the physical waterway was left exposed to Iranian pressure. Iran capitalized on that exact pinch point, turning a secondary geographic vulnerability into the world's primary diplomatic distraction. To find the real priorities, we must look back at the core strategic goals that have driven U.S. policy across the last 3 presidential administrations. This diagram lays out the 3 non-negotiable pillars of American focus: zero nuclear weapons, zero ballistic missiles, and zero funding for proxy groups. But the Iranians successfully diverted the international conversation away from those 3 massive pillars and onto maritime shipping instead. By weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz, Iran forced the international community to shift the goalposts of diplomacy away from their most dangerous military programs. Even if negotiators resolve the waterway dispute, securing a genuine nuclear agreement is difficult because previous deals relied on flawed oversight mechanisms. The primary flaw was giving inspection duties to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Military experts argue that true verification requires American inspectors directly on the ground, similar to the protocols used with the Soviet Union. The second major hurdle is the internal chaos within Iran's government. Power is fractured between elected officials, military leaders in the IRGC, and ruling clerics. Right now, these isolated factions are struggling to communicate because major telecommunications equipment across the country has been destroyed in a series of coordinated bombings. Securing an ironclad nuclear deal is nearly impossible without strict on-site verification and a unified Iranian leadership that is actually capable of enforcing the terms. Shift the perspective from Washington to the neighboring Gulf states, and the primary security concerns change significantly. Nations like Kuwait and Qatar have to live directly alongside the results of this 60-day memorandum. These bordering nations are significantly less concerned about Iran's hypothetical nuclear breakout than Western powers are. They understand the geography. They know that if Iran were to use a nuclear weapon close to home, the radioactive fallout would blow directly back across their own borders into Iranian territory. The Western obsession with a nuclear timeline ignores the geographic reality experienced by the states that are actually sitting in the crosshairs. The primary fear for Iran's neighbors is the active and highly developed ballistic missile program. Unlike theoretical nuclear weapons, these conventional missiles are an active threat that neighboring states are experiencing firsthand in the current kinetic exchanges. This puts the 60-day memorandum into perspective. The loud, public fight over the Strait of Hormuz is a superficial first step in a much longer process. Regional stability requires a diplomatic focus on the conventional missiles currently in the air. For those living in the region, the immediate danger of today's arsenal outweighs the theoretical threat of a future nuclear program.